So there I am, propped up in a hospital bed, feeling like I'd just run a marathon and been hit by a truck simultaneously. I'm holding the most perfect, tiny human being I have ever seen in my entire life. My son. And a nurse, bless her heart, a cheerful woman named Carol with kind eyes, hands me a clipboard with some forms. Standard procedure. She points to a line with her pen. And for the father's name, she asks, smiling. I look at my own mother, who is sitting in the chair next to my bed, her eyes red from happy tears. I look at my sister, who is practically vibrating with a protective energy that could power a small city. Then I look back at Carol, and without a hint of hesitation, I give her the sweetest smile I can muster and say, "Oh, you can just leave that blank." Or write anonymous donor. Whichever is easier for your paperwork. The silence that followed was magnificent. Carol's pen froze midair. My mom's jaw dropped. But the best part, the absolute cherry on top, was the strangled gasp that came from the doorway. I turned my head slowly to see my husband, Mark, and his mother, standing there, mouths agape. My mother-in-law looked like she'd just been slapped with a wet fish. Mark just looked confused, like a golden retriever trying to understand a magic trick. "What? What did you just say?" he stammered. I adjusted my baby in my arms, looked my husband dead in the eye and said, "You heard me. You weren't here to get him into the world. You don't get the credit on the paperwork." Let me tell you, he absolutely, 100%, earned that moment. And it all started 3 years ago when I met him, but the real story, the one that ends with him being demoted from husband to sperm donor, started about 9 months before that day in the hospital. When I first met Mark, I thought he was the whole package. He was charming, funny, had a great job, and seemed genuinely kind. He did come with one piece of baggage, though, his ex-girlfriend, Brenda. They had dated for 5 years, all through college, and had broken up about a year before I met him. He swore it was completely amicable and that they were just the best of friends. And you know what? I tried to be the cool girlfriend. I really did. I didn't want to be that insecure, jealous woman who tells her boyfriend he can't have female friends. I believed in being mature and trusting. So when he told me he had dinner with Brenda once a month to catch up, I smiled and said that was nice. When she would call him in the middle of our date nights because of some minor crisis, like her printer not working, I would patiently wait for him to finish talking her through it. My friends saw the red flags. My sister, Chloe, especially. She'd say things like, "It's not that he's friends with her. It's that she still acts like she's his girlfriend, and he lets her." But I was in love. I'd brush it off. "He's just a loyal person," I'd say. That's a good quality. We got married 2 years later. Brenda was at the wedding, of course. She wore a dress that was a shade of cream suspiciously close to white and gave a toast that was more about her and Mark's long history than it was about me and our future. Even then, I swallowed my annoyance and played the part of the gracious bride. Then, we decided to have a baby. I was over the moon. Mark seemed excited too, in his own way. He was excited about the idea of a son to toss a football with, about having a kid to show off to his buddies. The reality of pregnancy, however, was a different story. The morning sickness, the exhaustion, the endless appointments, he was less than thrilled about those. And his best friend, Brenda, was always there to offer a convenient escape. The first major crack appeared when I was about 20 weeks along. It was time for the anatomy scan, the big one where we could find out the sex of the baby. I was so excited. I'd had the appointment booked for months. The night before, I reminded Mark, "Don't forget, tomorrow at 2 p.m. We finally get to see him or her." "Wouldn't miss it for the world, babe," he said, kissing my forehead. The next day, I took a half day off work and got to the clinic at 1:45 p.m., my heart pounding with anticipation. 2 p.m. came and went. No Mark. 2:10 p.m. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. I texted him. No reply. The receptionist was giving me sympathetic looks. At 2:20, a nurse came out and said they couldn't wait any longer. So, I went in alone. I held my own hand, tears silently streaming down my face as the ultrasound tech pointed out a tiny heart, a little spine, and 2 little legs. "And there you have it," she said gently. "It's a boy." I should have been ecstatic. Instead, all I felt was this profound, crushing loneliness. I walked out of the clinic in a daze and finally saw a text from Mark, sent half an hour earlier. Hey, so sorry. Brenda's car broke down on the freeway. Total crisis. Had to go rescue her. I'll make it up to you. Is it a boy or a girl? I didn't even respond. When he got home that evening, carrying a bouquet of sad-looking grocery store flowers, I was still numb. I am so sorry, honey, he said, trying to hug me. I stood stiffly in his arms. Brenda was hysterical. You know how she is with car stuff. Her anxiety was through the roof. I'm having our son, Mark, I said, my voice flat. And you weren't there to see him for the first time because Brenda had a flat tire. This is where the gaslighting kicked in. Don't be like that. It's not like I planned for her car to break down. You're being a little hormonal, don't you think? It's just one appointment. There will be plenty of others. I let him convince me. I let him tell me I was overreacting. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that this was a one-time thing, a freak accident of scheduling. I was wrong. It was just the warm-up act. The escalation began in earnest during my third trimester. We had been saving up for a really nice, top-of-the-line stroller and car seat system. It was expensive, almost $1,000, but safety was my top priority, and we'd both agreed it was a worthy investment. We had the money set aside in a joint savings account. One weekend, I went online to finally place the order. I logged into the bank account and my blood ran cold. The money was gone. All of it. I called Mark, my voice trembling with panic. Mark, the money for the stroller, it's gone. Did you move it? Were we hacked? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Oh, yeah, about that. I meant to tell you. Tell me what? Okay, don't get mad, he started, and I just knew it was going to be bad. But Brenda's been having a really tough time lately. Her dog, Buster, you know, the one she's had for like 15 years? He had to have emergency surgery. It was super expensive, and she was a wreck. So I lent her the money. I was speechless. I literally could not form words. It's a loan, he said quickly, defensively. She's going to pay me back as soon as she can. You gave our baby's safety equipment money to your ex-girlfriend for her dog? I finally whispered, the words tasting like poison. Don't say it like that. It makes it sound bad. I was just being a good friend. You know how much she loves that dog. And besides, we can just get a cheaper stroller. They all do the same thing, right? We had a massive fight. I screamed, I cried, I told him he had to get the money back immediately. He accused me of being selfish and materialistic, of not caring about a poor, sick animal. He told me I was making his life impossible, forcing him to choose between his pregnant wife and his best friend in need. In the end, I was the one who apologized, just to make the fighting stop. We ended up buying a cheap, flimsy stroller from Walmart. And, of course, Brenda never paid him back. The next incident was the baby shower. My sister Chloe and my mom planned the whole thing. It was supposed to be a happy day, just me and my closest friends and family. I had given Chloe the guest list myself. The day of the shower, I walked into my mom's house, and who do I see standing in the middle of the living room, holding a glass of champagne and laughing like she's the guest of honor? Brenda. I froze at the door. I looked at Chloe, whose face was a thundercloud. She just shook her head slightly, mouthing, "It wasn't me." Mark came bustling over, a huge grin on his face. Surprise. I invited Brenda. I didn't want her to feel left out, you know? I knew you'd forget to add her to the list, so I just texted her the invite myself. Isn't that great? I just stared at him. Great, I mumbled. For the rest of the party, Brenda followed me around like a shadow, offering unsolicited advice and making passive-aggressive comments. While I was opening gifts, someone gave me a beautiful, hand-knitted baby blanket. Brenda piped up, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, that's so sweet." I'm actually a much better knitter. When Mark and I were together, I knitted him a whole sweater. He wore it all the time. Do you still have that, Marky? Later, when we were cutting the cake, she cornered me by the dessert table. You know, she said, examining her nails, Mark always told me he never wanted kids. He said he was too much of a free spirit. It's just so funny how people change. I felt my smile start to crack. Through it all, Mark was oblivious. He thought it was wonderful that his two favorite girls were getting along so well. When I tried to talk to him about it later that night, explaining how uncomfortable she had made me, he just sighed dramatically. I seriously can't win, he said. I try to include her and be a good, modern, ex-boyfriend friend, and you get mad. If I didn't invite her, you'd probably get mad about that too. You're just looking for reasons to hate her. I gave up. It was easier than fighting. I just retreated into myself and focused on the baby. Only a few more weeks, I told myself. Once the baby is here, everything will change. He'll have to put us first. He'll finally see what's important. Oh, sweet, naive, pregnant me. I had no idea. The breaking point. The day it all came crashing down. It was a Tuesday, 4 days before my due date. I had been having Braxton Hicks contractions for weeks, but that morning, something felt different. They were stronger, more regular. I started timing them. They were about 15 minutes apart. This could be it, I thought. I tried not to get too excited. Around noon, I was waddling around the kitchen getting a glass of water when I felt a sudden, warm gush. I looked down. A puddle was forming on the floor. My water had broken. My heart started hammering in my chest. A mix of terror and exhilarating excitement washed over me. I grabbed my phone, my hand shaking, and dialed Mark. He picked up on the third ring. Hey babe, what's up? I'm kind of in the middle of something, he said. He sounded cheerful. In the background, I could hear the clatter of plates and distant chatter. Mark, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. It's happening. My water just broke. Oh wow. For real, he said. There was a pause. I heard him say to someone else, it's Laura. Her water just broke. I heard a distinctly female giggle in the background. It had to be Brenda. Yeah, for real, I said, a contraction starting to build, making me clench my teeth. The doctor said to head to the hospital once my water broke. I need you to come home and take me. Okay, calm down, he said, his voice a little too casual for my liking. Listen, I'm actually at lunch right now. At lunch? With who? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. With Brenda, he confirmed. It's our annual cheers to being friends lunch. We do it every year on the day we broke up. It's our tradition. I was having a contraction. My water had broken. I was about to give birth to his child. And he was talking to me about his stupid, made-up tradition with his ex-girlfriend. Mark, I don't care what tradition it is. I am in labor. You need to come home. Now. He sighed, a long, put-upon sigh that I knew so well. Honey, you're overreacting. First babies take forever. Forever. We're talking, like, 24 hours, maybe more. My mom said she was in labor with me for almost 2 days. You're probably not even really in labor yet. It's just the early stages. My water broke. I yelled, the pain and panic making my voice shrill. I know, but you're not, like, screaming in agony, are you? So you've got plenty of time. Look, we just ordered our food. It would be super rude to just get up and leave Brenda here. Let me just finish my lunch and then I'll head home. An hour, maybe an hour and a half, tops. Just time your contractions and try to relax. Take a bath or something. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was so absurd, so monumentally selfish, that my brain couldn't quite process it. He was choosing to finish his sandwich with his ex-girlfriend over taking his wife to the hospital to have their baby. So you're not coming, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I am coming, he said, exasperated. I'm just not coming this exact second. You're being dramatic. Text me when the contractions are, like, 5 minutes apart. Then I'll know it's serious. I gotta go, our salads are here. I'll see you in a bit. Love you. And he hung up. I stood there in the puddle on my kitchen floor, phone in my hand, and something inside me just snapped. It was a moment of absolute, ice-cold clarity. The warmth of love I had felt for him, the years of excuses I had made, the future I had imagined, it all just evaporated. In its place was a hard, cold, unshakable certainty. I was done. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took a deep breath, wiped my eyes, and made 2 calls. The first was to my sister, Chloe. My water broke. Mark's having lunch with Brenda and told me to wait. I need a ride to the hospital. The silence on Chloe's end lasted about 2 seconds before she exploded. I am going to literally end him. I'm on my way. I'll be there in 10 minutes. The second call was to a divorce lawyer my friend had recommended a few months ago. I left a message. Hi, my name is Laura. I'm on my way to the hospital to have a baby, and I'd like to file for divorce as soon as possible. Please call me back. By the time Chloe screeched into my driveway, I had my hospital bag by the door and was breathing through another contraction. She took one look at my face and her expression softened from rage to concern. She grabbed my bag, got me into the car, and we sped towards the hospital, breaking at least 5 traffic laws on the way. As we were driving, my phone started buzzing. It was Mark. Chloe snatched it from my hand. "I'll handle this," she said, her voice grim. She answered on speakerphone. "What?" she barked. "Whoa, Chloe, chill. Is Laura there?" "How's she doing?" he asked, still sounding breezy. "She's in my car on the way to the hospital. You absolute waste of space," Chloe snarled. "Oh. Okay. Cool. Well, tell her the calamari here is amazing. We're just waiting on the check." "So, what are the contractions at now?" Chloe looked at me. I was gripping the dashboard, my knuckles white, as a wave of pain washed over me. "They're getting closer, Mark," she said through gritted teeth. "And a lot stronger." Okay. Just keep me posted. I'll probably head over there straight from the restaurant." And he hung up. Chloe threw my phone onto the back seat as if it were contaminated. "When this is over," she said, her eyes fixed on the road, "I get to punch him. Just once." "Get in line," I gasped. The moment we got to the hospital, things went from 0 to 60. The nurses took one look at me and rushed me into a delivery room. I was already 5 centimeters dilated. This was not taking forever. This was happening, and it was happening fast. Chloe was my rock. She held my hand, fed me ice chips, and relayed my death glares to the apathetic-looking resident who suggested I try to breathe through the pain. My phone kept buzzing with texts from Mark. Chloe would read them out to me in a flat, monotone voice. 7:15 p.m. Just left the restaurant. Brenda says good luck. Hitting a little traffic. ETA 30 minutes. 7:45 p.m. OMG, traffic is a nightmare. Still on the freeway. 8:15 p.m. Okay, I'm here. Finding parking. Where are you guys? Maternity ward? At that point, I was 9 centimeters dilated and the doctor was telling me it was almost time to push. Chloe texted him back one simple message, room 302. And you are a terrible human being. The next half hour was a blur of pain, effort, and encouragement from my sister and the amazing nurses. And then at 8:43 p.m., after 3 final, Herculean pushes, he was here. My son. They placed him on my chest, this screaming, messy, perfect little miracle, and the whole world just melted away. It was just him and me. I was so wrapped up in him that I barely registered the door to the room opening. But I did register Chloe's entire body tensing up beside me. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," she muttered. I looked up. There stood Mark. He was holding a half-eaten bag of chips and smiling his goofy, charming smile. "Hey, I made it," he said, as if he'd just won a race. "Wow. He's really here. So, what did I miss?" That was it. That was the line. What did I miss? The red mist that descended over Chloe's vision was almost visible. Before I could say anything, she was on her feet and in his face. "What did you miss?" She hissed, her voice low and furious. "What did you miss, Mark? You missed her water breaking. You missed her laboring at home alone. You missed the terrifying car ride to the hospital. You missed her screaming in pain for 3 straight hours. You missed her pushing so hard I thought she was going to pass out. You missed the birth of your son. That's what you missed. All for a traditional lunch with your girlfriend." "She's not my girlfriend," he said, finally looking flustered. "And I was going to be here." The traffic was bad. Just then, his parents bustled in, my mother-in-law, Karen, leading the charge. "We're here." "Oh my goodness, look at my grandbaby," she cooed, completely ignoring the tension that was thick enough to cut with a knife. She saw the scene, Chloe looking like a guard dog, Mark looking guilty, and me, on the bed, holding my baby with a look of pure ice on my face. "Now, what's all this?" she said, turning on Chloe. "Don't you yell at my son." Mark was being a good friend to that poor girl Brenda. It's not his fault the baby decided to come early. And that's when I finally spoke. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a scalpel. "Get out," I said. Everyone stopped. Mark looked at me confused. "What, babe?" "Get out," I repeated, looking directly at him. "Both of you. You and your mother. You missed the show, you don't get a backstage pass. Chloe, call the nurse." And that brings us back to the beginning. The nurse, Carol, came in. My mother-in-law started screeching about my disrespect. Mark was trying to plead with me, saying I was hormonal and tired and didn't know what I was saying. I just ignored them all. I calmly asked Carol for the birth certificate paperwork, which is when I delivered my anonymous donor line. Hospital security had to escort Mark and his mother out of the room. The last thing I heard was Karen wailing in the hallway, "She's stealing my grandbaby." The aftermath was messy but liberating. From my hospital bed, I called the lawyer back and officially retained her. The divorce papers were served to Mark a week after I brought our son, whose name is Leo, home from the hospital. Just Leo. No middle name. No initial from his father. Mark, of course, lost his mind. He bombarded me with texts, calls, and voicemails. They ranged from pathetic begging, "I made a mistake, I'll do anything," to angry accusations, "You're trying to ruin my life because I have a female friend." Brenda even had the audacity to send me a long, rambling message on Facebook about how this was all a huge misunderstanding and how she would never want to come between a husband and wife, and how she hoped we could all be one big, happy, mature family someday. I took great pleasure in blocking her. His parents tried to ambush me at my house, but my dad, who is a very large and very quiet man, met them at the door and suggested, in no uncertain terms, that they leave and only communicate through my lawyer from now on. The divorce was surprisingly swift. When my lawyer presented the timeline of events from the day of Leo's birth, complete with screenshots of the texts Mark had sent, the judge was not impressed with him. He got standard visitation, but I got full physical and legal custody. His financial selfishness also came back to bite him in the alimony and child support hearings. So yeah, I'm a single mom now. And honestly, it's a million times easier than being married to a man-child. I have my son, my amazing family, and my sanity. Mark has his lunch dates with Brenda. I think I got the better end of the deal. It took blowing up my entire life to do it, but I finally learned to stop being the cool girl and start being the woman who knows her own worth. And my son will never have to question who his mother's priority is. It's him. Always. So, that's the story of how my husband became my ex-husband on the same day he became a father. It was a wild ride, but let me tell you, the peace on the other side is totally worth it. And if you think that's crazy, you should hear about what happened at the first custody exchange when he tried to bring Brenda along as emotional support. If you want to hear that story, make sure you like and subscribe because it is a whole other level of unbelievable.